Today we're making 3 Asian noodles using ramen. So we're gonna start with this budae-jjigae, a Korean army stew that's noodly comfort made all in one pot. So first I'm gonna chop up half of an onion, just in thin slices. Then we're gonna be using hot dogs, and I'm slicing it into diagonals and maybe just a couple to look like octopuses for fun. I'm gonna slice up some mushrooms to give it some umami, and of course we're gonna need some greens, and I'm gonna use bok choy here. Like spinach, this shrinks down to nothing. We'll also add in some tofu because I like the nice soft texture. I'm just gonna slice it up. So these are the basic things that I like in my budae-jjigae, but you can customize it to add whatever you'd like. So to give this stew the bold, spicy flavor, we're gonna add to a bowl 4 cloves of minced garlic along with 1 tablespoon of gochujang, which is Korean hot pepper paste, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, 1 tablespoon of mirin, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, and a teaspoon of gochugaru or Korean chili flakes to give it some color, or depending how spicy you like it, you can add a little bit more. Give it a mix, and then we're gonna set it aside. So typically everything for this dish is boiled in one pot, but I like to add layers. So we're gonna stir fry some of our ingredients first to add more flavors. So I'm gonna start by stir frying and browning the hot dogs with the onions. Drizzle in a little bit of oil and just like cook it up. This way it brings out a sweeter caramelized flavor. All right, once that's done, I'm just gonna push it to one side. And then if you need it, add a little more oil. Then we're gonna brown our mushrooms just for another quick minute. Push it to the other side. And then I always love to caramelize my kimchi because I think it creates a deeper, more concentrated kimchi flavor. And then we can just build the rest of the pot with tofu slices. Make sure to leave room for the bok choy here later since it's not gonna cook just yet. I'm gonna add a dry ramen puck right in the middle, then pour on our spicy sauce right on top of it, and then we're gonna add chicken broth just until it covers everything in the pan. Let it all come to a boil, and then let's talk about the history real quick. As it's reduced down, tuck the chopped bok choy in its place, and this part is optional, but we're gonna add some American cheese right on top to make it creamy. Okay, and then we're gonna cover it up for just a couple minutes so the cheese gets nice and melty. If you're not familiar with budae-jjigae, it's a Korean army stew that goes all the way back to post-Korean War when food was scarce and they used rationed ingredients found at the US Army base. Let's garnish it with some green onion and it's ready to enjoy just like this. We'll also add some white sesame seeds. Scoop some of your favorite parts into a bowl. It's the best meal shared with friends on a night of karaoke and drinking. Get some of our octopus hot dog and bring so much comfort and happiness. Everything we love to eat in a bowl. When it's 100 degrees out and you don't want hot, soupy ramen but crave those flavors, this butter miso ramen stir fry will definitely satisfy. Okay, so first we're gonna start by making the sauce since we're gonna be using it for the meat and the noodles. I'm gonna melt 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and because it's me, I love to brown the butter. It adds so much depth and makes the butter taste nice and nutty. We're just gonna let it go until the milk solids at the bottom brown up. Now, in a bowl, we're gonna add the brown butter, 2 tablespoons of miso. I'm gonna be using white miso here to give it a subtle taste. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of rice vinegar. You need some of that acid to balance all of these salty flavors. A clove of crushed garlic and some freshly grated ginger. I'm using about a teaspoon of that too. Give it a mix. It's nice, thick, and glossy. Let's give it a quick taste. That is a flavor bomb right there. For the ramen, I'm using these fresh ones. I just like the bouncy chew that it has in the stir fry, but of course you guys can always use the dry packaged one as well. I'm just gonna boil it off for 1 minute, undercooking it slightly because it's gonna continue to cook once we mix it with the sauce and everything later on. Drain it, rinse off any excess starch, and let's move on to the meat. So for me, I always get the spicy miso ramen. It's my absolute favorite with the ground pork on top. So I'm gonna do minced pork on our dry ramen version here. In my wok, drizzle a little bit of oil, let it get nice and shimmery. I'm gonna start by searing off a 1/4 pound of ground pork. We'll season it with some salt and pepper, and then just 1 tablespoon of our miso sauce from earlier, and then another clove of crushed garlic because I like things garlicky. Once the meat is mincy and golden brown, almost like fried looking, cooking. We're gonna scoop it out onto a bowl, and then we're gonna toss the rest of our buttered miso sauce, and then we're gonna let it warm through our noodles into the same pan, along with some large handfuls of spinach just to sneak in some veggies. And now it's time to serve. I'm making more like a single serving size here, a pretty large one. I'm gonna add our ground pork on top, and because I always ask for buttered corn on my ramen, we're gonna add that too. We're gonna garnish it too. Instead of the seaweed that you normally get on the side of the ramen, we're gonna sprinkle on some furikake, which is just seaweed and sesame seeds. And to make it spicy, I'm gonna add some togarashi here, which is a Japanese red pepper flakes, some green onions, and we've got ourselves a summer version of the spicy miso ramen stir-fried edition. This took just about 15 minutes to make. It's so comforting and still slurpalicious. Now, if both of those seem like a lot of work for you, let's make it simple and pare it down, and we'll make a ramen using all of your favorite things for those late night cravings or even for breakfast. I'm gonna use this packet of ramen here, and we're just gonna elevate it. First, I'll start by frying up some bacon that I've already cut into smaller pieces, and we're just gonna fry them up until they're nice and golden brown. Then go ahead, scoop them out and remove the bacon and set it aside. Depending on how much of the bacon grease you wanna use, typically I just wipe away most of it, but leaving a little bit to flavor our noodles and our broth. You can use your favorite. Shin Ramyun would actually be so good with this, but now I'm just gonna add some water, the seasoning packet, and bring it to a boil. Add the noodles in and let it cook for about 2 minutes, just until the noodles start to unravel and get a little softer. Then I push it to the side a little bit. Now we're gonna crack in an egg and pretty much poach it with the noodles. It's okay if it gets stuck with the noodles, just let it do its thing. And then we're gonna simmer it for another 2 minutes. To serve it, just gently slide everything into a bowl. This part is optional. You can add a slice of American cheese on top if you wanna take it the Kylie Jenner way. Hey, I never said this was gonna be healthy. I gave you 2 other options that were a little healthier. We'll sprinkle on our bacon bits, some green onions, and a drizzle of sesame oil to round it all out. Sometimes late night munchies just don't really need to be healthy. They just need to taste good. You're basically getting a breakfast sandwich in ramen form. The cheesy, eggy, bacony flavors all come through, and it's so delicious. If you guys like this video using ramen, check out my other Asian noodle recipes. And if you want even more Asian noodles, I have a whole chapter of noodles in my cookbook. So go check that out. He'll break his fast for ramen and hot dogs. Octopus hot dog here.
I haven't even tried it yet.
So good.